Hi, summary plot movie here. Today I will recap a movie called Squid Game released in 2021. Squid Game is a South Korean film series about a brutal survival game. How is the continuation of the story? But before we continuing the summary plot of the film, we remind you that this content is a full film spoiler. Plug in the headset, symmetrically lie down, enjoy the video and let's start the story. The film begins by showing a man named Ji-hun. He worked odd jobs and became a burden to his old mother. That's why his wife left him and married another man. Even the custody of their only daughter was also won by the wife, who is now living happily with her new family. With all the bad luck in his life, Ji-hun tries to be a good father on his daughter's birthday. He was determined to take his mother money to be doubled in a gamble. Luckily, he managed to win the gambling and get quite a lot of money. But as soon as he got out of the gambling place, he was immediately chased by moneylenders who wanted to collect debts from him. Seeing a bunch of loan sharks, Ji-hun immediately ran away to save his money. But unfortunately he was still caught. He also tried to negotiate and promised to pay half his debt with the money he won today. But when he checked the money, it turned out that all the money was gone. It turned out that while trying to escape earlier, he had hit a girl who turned out to be the girl had stolen all the money. The loan sharks then forced Ji-hun to sign a letter of agreement. The contents of the letter said that if Ji-hun did not pay his debt within 1 month, then the moneylender has the right to take and sell his organs. All the misfortunes of his life made him frustrated because he couldn't buy good food and good gifts on his daughter's birthday. He also feels that he has failed to be a good father to his daughter. Now in his life, all that's left is misfortune and debts that he won't be able to pay. In the midst of his despair, Ji-hun also get a glimmer of hope. At that time, a young man gave him a ticket to enter a game. The young man said that if Ji-hun managed to finish the game, then he would get a lot of money. Hearing that, Ji-hun was immediately interested and tried to follow the game. A few days later, Ji-hun and other people who had the same fate were taken in a car. They were also drugged to maintain the secrecy of the game venue. In addition, all their cell phones and luggage were also confiscated and will be returned later after they done the game. There were 456 players gathered in a large room. The game place is managed by a mysterious man dressed in all black named Frontman, while the staff themselves will be wearing all red clothes. They seem to have been very experienced in running that game for years. They keep everything very secret. Even their identity should not be known by anyone. At there, Ji-hun also met some other players. One of them is Sang-woo. He is Ji-hun's childhood friend. Then Ali the foreign worker, Ilnam the sick old man, Doksu the gangster, Mi Neo the flirtatious old widow, and Se-byuk, the illegal immigrant from North Korea. This Se-byuk is the girl who stole all of Ji-hun's money at the gambling place. Ji-hun was very angry when he met Se-byuk there, but when Ji-hun was about to hit him, the staff had already come to their room. Then the staff explained that they will play 6 games. There are several rules that must be agreed by the players before starting the first game, where the player must not stop in the middle of the game. The second is if there is a player who refuses to play, then he will be immediately eliminated. And the last is the game will be stopped if the majority of all players agree to stop playing. After agreeing all the terms, all players are then taken to the field for start the first game. The first game they will play is red light and green light. At the end of the field, there is a giant robot that serves as a guard there. Well, when the robot says the green light, the players are allowed to run as fast as possible to the finish line before the time runs out. But when the robot says a red light, then the players may not move at all because if caught by the robot then they will be immediately eliminated. It seems like very simple, but actually it is much more terrible than that because the meaning of eliminated is not just being kicked out of the game, but also being shot to death. Bullets came from all directions, all of which were set up to shoot directly at anyone who moved during a red light. Because of that, the participants were surprised and started to run away from the playing field. But unfortunately that action made them all die in vain. Ji-hun and the few remaining players were forced to continue to finish the game. Even though they had to see hundreds of corpses lying there, they have to stay concentrated so they can reach the finish line safely and not run out of time. Those who have crossed the finish line before time runs out will be declared qualified and have the right to advance to the next game. Jihan, who was previously far behind, tried to run as fast as possible in his last seconds. But unfortunately he slipped and almost fell. Luckily, Ali, who was behind Jihan, managed to pull his shirt so he can survive and finally escape from the game, while those who had run out of time were immediately declared defeated and shot one by one. After completing the first game, the players gathered back in the room. Out of 456 players, now there are only 201 players. The remaining players is very scared to see what happened in the first game. They then agreed to end the game by voting. But before the vote, the staff announced to them that now the prize pool has reached more than 25 billion won. It is accumulated by the number of participants who have fallen. And if they choose to quit this game, then they will be sent home without bringing any money. Some players were so affected to hear it, but in the end only by one vote difference, they finally agreed to end the game. After that, the players were sent back to their respective areas. The next day, Jihan decided to go to the police station and report the cruel game syndicate. He also told all the events from beginning to end, but the policeman just laughed hearing all of Jihan's stories. Then Jihan also gave the game ticket that he previously got from the mysterious young man before. There is a telephone number where you can be reached, but when the policeman tried to call the number, the one who picked it up was an ordinary woman. It made the police immediately angry with Jihan and thought he had gone mad. Not long after that, a policeman named Junho just arrived at the police station. For some reason, he seemed interested in the game ticket that was brought by Jihan. He even asked for Jihan address from the police who heard Jihan's story before, because he felt like there was something odd about Jihan. Unexpectedly, he also has the exact same ticket as Jihan. It turned out that the ticket belonged to his long-lost brother. Junho also felt that the game must have something to do with the case of the disappearance of his brother. In another place, Jihan, who went home feeling confused looking for his mother. It turns out that Jihan's mother is currently being treated in the hospital because of diabetes she has been suffering from for a long time. The doctor even advised him to immediately perform surgery, but his mother instead chose to go home because she could not afford the cost of treatment at the hospital. It also made Jihan sad and disappointed in himself. He even dared to borrow money from his ex-wife to be able to pay for his mother's medical expenses. But what he got instead was insults from his ex-wife's new husband, who also forbade him to even approach his own biological daughter. Of course it made Jihan angry and immediately beat the man. Now Jihan realized that what the staff in the game said was true, that the outside world is much crueler than what's going on inside. They will still be chased by debt and die at the hands of moneylenders. All that harsh reality made Jihan and other players interested in playing that terrible game again. But now something was different. Some of them had prepared themselves because they already knew what was going to happen inside. On the other hand, Junho also tried to infiltrate their car. This time, he was determined to enter the place of the game to find his brother who was lost there. He also beat up a staff member and took his costume so he could infiltrate safely. The players are gathered back in the big room. Some of them came with something, such as carrying a weapon or small items they needed. From the initial 201 participants, now only 187 people have decided to play again, which means the prizes are also increasing. At night, Saebyok, who was carrying a small knife, went to the toilet and tried to sneak in through the vent. With Minyo's help, he managed to get into the vent and see what was happening in the other room. She saw the staff making huge quantities of dalgona candy there, but she didn't know what the purpose of the candy was. The next day, the players were prepared and gathered to play the second game. Before starting the game, Sangwoo asked Saebyok about what she saw last night. Saebyok replied that this game must be a childhood game because he saw the staff making dalgona candy in large quantities, while Saebyok, who comes from North Korea, will definitely have a hard time in the game this time. After hearing that, Sangwoo immediately remembered his childhood game. There is liquid dalgona candy which is given in various forms. Their job is to scrape the candy according to its shape. That's why, he deliberately took the shape of a triangle because it was the easiest form. But strangely, Sang-woo didn't tell his best friend about it and instead let them choose a difficult form.
주어진 모양을 깨끗이 잘라내면 통과입니다.
All players have 10 minutes to complete the game this time. For players who fail to make a suitable scheme, then they will be immediately eliminated or shot. It also made the other players panic and even more fear. They all tried their best to get the desired pattern.
한 번만 제발.
Mi Neo is seen who uses her lighter to heat the needle so that the candy can be melted more easily. Players who pick up easy schemes one by one start successfully completing missions safely, but the problem is the players who take difficult forms. What's more, they are also being chased by time which is running out during the game process. On the other hand, Junho is starting to get suspicious by other staff because he looks confused and doesn't seem to know his job there. At the last minute, Jihan suddenly had a brilliant idea to complete the mission quickly. At that time, he saw that the dalgona candy already had a pattern, so all he had to do was lick the candy so it could be easily separated from the pattern. It's the only fastest way he can do if he wants to survive from there. The other players who saw Jihan also immediately followed his trick, and unexpectedly it really helped them so some players can complete the mission safely. However, there was a player who failed and tried to fight a staff. Therefore, the other staff immediately shot the other players so they didn't have a chance to fight back. That player pointed a gun at the staff and asked him to take off his mask. But as soon as he took off his mask he was immediately shot by frontman. So all the staff there have sworn not to reveal their masks or identities in the game venue. They are only allowed to remove the mask when in the room and alone. All of this is done to maintain all the confidentiality of the game.